is the second part of Module 2, and we are going right ahead into it. So this time around, we are going to talk about stress and how it affects your weight, how and this is a very important topic. On the face of it, it may not look as deep, but it is very deep. The effects are far reaching. So please pay attention, be here with me 100% of the time, and let's address this issue. Stress and weight, your nutrition mindset. What is stress? What is stress? Anything that makes you feel like you're putting in more than you have the capacity to, anything that feels as if it's demanding more from you than you can possibly give at a point in time, is stress. Okay, stress is when demand outweighs the resources that a person can give, and the person finds it difficult, almost impossible, to be able to cope with the strain mentally, emotionally, and physically. Okay, and stress is a part of everyday life. Everybody will feel stressed at one point or the other. However, some people are usually more stressed than some other people, and that's what we're here to talk about. We're here to discuss how you can sort of eliminate stress from your life without removing the things that are important from your life, and you'll get to understand me more as we go along. Okay, and I'm here to say to you that stress can cause weight gain. Let me repeat that in case you didn't hear me. Stress can make you gain weight. Stress can make you add weight. And this is not just me trying to like bamboozle you. It is proven, and I'm going to break it down to you. Okay, the body has hormones. Your body has hormones that are released into the bloodstream, and I mean, you must have heard of them, but everybody has experienced them. Even for people who have not heard of them, there are hormones in the body, and they are released into your bloodstream because your brain communicates with your body, and this is what regulates your body. It regulates your feelings and your reactions and your attitudes. A lot are riding on these hormones. But before we dig into hormones more, I still want to talk more about stress. So the first question is, what stresses you? What stresses you? And this is not a rhetorical question. I ask a lot of questions, but it is to make you understand yourself. It is to make you explore yourself, explore your feelings, your emotions, your behavioral patterns, your habits, the why behind what you do. So it's not just I just do it, I'm just used to doing it. I want you to explore why you do what you do. So I want you to write down what stresses you. Is it your finances? Is it your business? Are you profitable, or you're not breaking even yet? What stresses you? What's demanding? What's tasking for you? What makes you feel like you've had more than enough? You've bitten off more than you can chew. Is it staffing issues in your business, or is it boss issues at work? Is it contemporary, like colleagues, issues with your colleagues, in like interactions with colleagues, and even with families and friends? Sometimes it can be stressful for people. So what stresses you? For some people, it is managing growth in their businesses. And I mean, some people, it's just Lagos traffic. It's stressful for you. Maybe you spend. So what stresses you? What stresses you? What makes you feel out of control? Is it how to find work-life balance? Is it a lack of support? Maybe you feel isolated, you feel lonely, you feel alone without any support. Does that stress you? Write down what stresses you. And the reason why it is important that we address this is because, and this is just going to blow your mind. First off, you must know that the thing in itself is not what stresses you, it is your reaction to it. It is how you react to the issues that you are encountering that makes you stressed or otherwise. It is not the situation in itself. And that is why two people can go through the same traffic to get to work, and one of them is looking and feeling extremely stressed upon getting to work, and the other one is feeling cool and calm and just maybe mildly in discomfort because they just spent 2 hours that could have been productive in traffic. So it is how you relate with a situation, an occurrence, that determines whether you are stressed out by it or not. Now, symptoms of stress can be mental, emotional, physical tiredness. You may just be stuck, like you are unable to move forward. You're just stuck in one position. Maybe you're supposed to like take a particular action in your business, or that person that has just done 2 hours inside traffic gets to work, sits down at their desk, and they're unable to work. They just find themselves playing around and toggling different windows, different applications that are open on the laptop. But if you really check, the person is not really doing anything. Okay, being burnt out is also another symptom of stress. Is another evidence that you're stressed. You're burnt out. You're just tired. You're just tired, exhausted. And if you find yourself not maximizing your potentials, then you are under stress. Like if you can perform 100%, and then you find yourself just doing 30%, 20%, 30. Some days, on good days, you do 50% of what you know you're capable of doing. Then there are stressful issues that you need to address in your mind. And remember that we said it is not the problems itself, it is not the issues themselves that are stressful, it is your approach to them. Do you know that stress causes sickness? Do you know that a person can be so stressed that they feel sick? If you come with me to this table, to this picture on this other side of the slide, you will see that there are different feelings in this first picture, and then you can see what they cause. And I've been here. There was a time in my life that I had so many negative emotions in me, and I was just constantly sad, anxious, and I wasn't just in a happy place, and I had ulcers. And do you know I could relate it to, like, whenever I start feeling those feelings, whenever the triggers come and I start thinking along some pathways, that's when I start feeling the ulcer pangs. And this is why you must know yourself. You must check your patterns, the recurring patterns in your life. So if you're constantly angry, or you have fear in you, or you feel guilty, you feel stuck, all these negative emotions, resentment, if you have phobias, it is going to show in the way that your body handles it. There are going to be sicknesses. The person is going to have different okay, let me ask us a question. How is it that when you hear maybe a worrisome news, if a person hears a bad news, how is it that sometimes immediately they start feeling like going to the toilet, and if they're not careful they will have diarrhea, they will have migraine? It is because your feelings directly affect your body. And sometimes you hear a bad news and you suddenly forget that you have had a headache since morning. So that is why we must pay attention to our feelings, and we must pay attention to what stresses us, because when we are stressed, funny emotions funny emotions come up, and if you're not careful, you start feeling funny as well. That is why you must pay attention to what stresses you. You must pay attention to what makes you feel funny, so that your body will be in peak shape all through the days. Okay, so that's why that's extremely important. Okay, now um let's go back to the issue of your neurotransmitters, the hormones in your body, and how they affect you, how they can, how they affect you generally. So we have an example here when Mrs. Z is when her body is going through stress, physical or mental, it communicates to the brain to release an hormone called cortisol. And in the very next slide, we're going to look at some of the hormones and how they affect our bodies and the feelings that they unleash in our bodies. So she's going through stress. Her that stressful situation makes her brain release an hormone called cortisol. So cortisol is that hormone that gets released when you're stressed up and you need to take action fast, fast, fast. So that stressful situation will say to our body, "Oh, we have an emergency," and then the brain is going to release cortisol into the bloodstream. And how the body reacts is it releases blood sugar, and sugar sort of gives energy. Everybody knows that. So blood sugar is released into the body and she gets all worked up. It puts her in a flight or fight mode. Okay? So now her body has plenty of sugar in it, plenty of sugar in the bloodstream, and she needs to take action. She needs to take action because she's the one that communicated to the brain first that, this one is an emergency. This is overwhelming. This is overwhelming. I need to do something. I need to do something. And in anticipation, in response to what she has done, the brain releases blood sugar into her bloodstream, and so if it's really an emergency, it's good for her because she can use that blood sugar and utilize it and save herself. So let's say somebody is maybe being attacked by armed robbers and she needs to run away, and she communicates to her brain that this is an emergency, there's a problem, and blood sugar is released into her bloodstream. She can run at that moment and just really run and use the energy to save herself, and then everybody's happy. But imagine that what she called an emergency is not really, really an emergency. So, for instance, let's say she's at work, and she needs to take a particular action, or she's in traffic, and for 2 hours, she starts to tell her body, "Oh, this is an emergency. I'm late for work. Something needs to be done. This is so stressful. This is so annoying. What am I going to do? What am I going to do?" Then the brain, picking up that tension, releases cortisol into her bloodstream, but she's still sitting down inside traffic. So she's not running, she's not exercising, she's not using up that blood sugar. It's just there in her bloodstream. And the body is wondering what to do with it because this was released for an emergency to strengthen her so that she can, fight or fly or run. But she didn't use it. Okay? And then what happens is that because she didn't use that, her body will now her body will now release another hormone, insulin, that will start to store those blood sugar and convert them to fat in her body. Because if there's too much blood sugar in the body, that's also a medical condition that is bad. So the body now has to re-regulate itself and store those things as fat in the body. And because when people are stressed, they train themselves to eat more than they need. They train themselves to eat more than they need. So already there's too much um, sugar in the system. There's too much blood sugar in the system that has already been converted to fat. So you're confusing. So she's stressed. She has trained her body to eat more. So her body has already more blood sugar. So if at that point, when she's stressed, at that particular point, she reaches for food again, or she reaches for candy or chocolates, she's adding more problems to herself because already the body has released blood sugar into the system. Then she takes more sugar, and when I say sugar, I don't mean literally sugar, although it could mean that. Because if you're taking a soft drink that has maybe 8 cubes of sugar or 12 cubes in one drink, then you are taking sugar. But you must also know that carbohydrates in most of its forms When you eat it and the body takes what it needs, it converts the excess. If you eat too much, it converts the excess, and it keeps breaking it down, but the end product is sugar. The end product is sugar. And I don't want to use technical language, but ultimately, when you eat too much rice or so, your body takes what it needs, converts the rest to sugar, turns it to fat, and stores it in your body. Okay? So our body doesn't know what to do with all this sugar, the one that the brain has released and the one that she's taking in right there and then. Then it converts it to fat and store them around her organs. And she gains more weight. She gains more weight. When stressed, people overeat. They start to crave junk. And you know why she craves the junk? Because she has trained her body to want that junk. Because she has trained her body to say, when I'm stressed, oh boy, just give me a plate of food, I beg. I can't kill myself. Eh? And the moment that they keep doing that, they're training their body to do the wrong things. And all of this means that they will gain much more weight. Much more weight. Okay? So now imagine someone that induces stress for herself all the time. Someone that makes her brain go into stress mode every time. Every time you see traffic, you allow yourself to get stressed. Every time you see a huge pile of work, you allow yourself to get stressed. When you know that you will still do the work anyway, when you know that you will go through that traffic and it will finish anyway. So why don't you change your mind? Change your mind, change your approach. When you see the traffic, pick a book that you have brought along for the trip and start to read it. And if you're the one driving, plug in an audiobook or start to pray or make good use of that time. Expect whatever it is that you have turned to emergencies and to stressful situation, and start to say to yourself, how can I see this situation in a different light so that I will not be stressed by it, especially if it's in the day-to-day occurrences of our lives. There's some things you cannot do without, and even the ones that are surprises, you must be able to train yourself to think of issues and immediately correct yourself and say, no, I will not be stressed by this situation. I refuse to be stressed by this situation, because you are in control of yourself. You are in control of yourself. So let's look at this particular table. This is the sugar addiction cycle. So it starts from when a person eats sugar, they like it. And remember, we said in our last class that everybody has been trained to like sugar. On your birthday, they give you cakes. That makes you feel like, wow, cake is for special occasions, which is possible. But sugar, and sugar has addictive properties. So someone likes it because it's addictive, they want more, then they crave it. Then when they eat it, when they eat it, dopamine, the feel good hormone. I don't know if we've talked about this in a recent class, but the feel good hormone is dopamine. And what it does is, yes, we've talked about it actually. So, what dopamine does is it makes you feel good. And we said that you can run a marathon and feel good, but you can take cake, candy, and feel good. So, dopamine is released in the brain, and the person starts to get addicted to it, to the feeling that eating sugar brings, to where it brings them. It makes them feel good. Okay? And because there's too much sugar in the blood system, then insulin is secreted in the body to reduce the blood sugar levels. And this is how people develop, you know, I don't know if to call it immunity, but their bodies cannot handle it anymore. The bodies cannot control the insulin level, the insulin resistance. Yes, they develop a resistance to insulin. So their bodies can't handle it. And that's when people have to start taking blood sugar medications to regulate the blood sugar, because they have abused the natural regulator that God put in the body. Then, when insulin has regulated the blood sugar by talking away some of it as fat in the person's body, you know, the blood sugar levels in the body reduces, and fat is stored in the body. But then the body recognizes that this sugar has reduced and it starts to crave that high again. It starts to crave it again. It starts to crave it again. And before you know it, there's a low blood sugar level, there's hunger, there's craving, there's increased appetite. The person wants it again. The person is craving the high, and they go back to this first you know first box and start saying, I want something sugary, I want chocolate. And before you know it, they keep going round in circles. And for every cycle, every time this cycle is repeated, that person is getting fatter, because at this point the body is storing up the extra as fat in the body. Okay, so let's look at the neurotransmitters, the other neurotransmitters again. We've talked a bit about adrenaline, which is the fight or flight uh, uh, um, hormone, that the hormone that is released when you are in a fight or flight situation. And it's produced in stressful situation. Remember we talked about that. The heart rate increases, there's high blood flow, and the body is pumped up to do some physical work. There's a physical heightened sense of awareness. And I'm saying that if that is induced because the person has taught themselves to believe that a situation which may not necessarily be stressful is stressful. You're sitting down at your desk, you're not going to do any physical activity, but you keep thinking and inducing yourself into stressful situations. And some of those situations are actually stressful, but you can actually take a stressful situation and temper it down and say, this is not a big deal. It is normal in the normal course of life. I will confront it and I will get over it. I will be fine. And so you are telling your body, no need to produce adrenaline until we need it, all right? Okay? So let's look at, we talked about dopamine too. I may not mention everything on this list. I'll just mention a few. So we talked about dopamine, and this is the feeling of pleasure, but it's also the feeling of addiction. Because it is pleasurable, people get addicted to it. Okay? Movement motivation. Okay, people repeat behaviors that make their body to release dopamine. They repeat that behavior, and God help you if you have taught your brain to see something that is harmful to your body as pleasure giving, because that is how people end up in abusive relationship, in abusive relationship. Okay, they just keep convincing themselves that it's fine, I enjoy a part of it, so I can endure a part of it. And that is how people binge on food, because of the pleasure that they feel that it gives them. They get addicted to it. There's also the serotonin hormone, and this contributes to well-being and happiness. It helps your sleep cycle, your digestive system, and this one is secreted with exercise and with exposure to light, with light exposure. So this is another good reason why you must exercise, because when you exercise, your body senses it, that you are active, and then it can release the well-being hormone, and you'll be able to sleep. So people with insomnia, if people with digestive system, you've not gone to toilet in a week or in days, if you just inculcate a habit of exercising regularly, then serotonin is going to be released in your bloodstream, and you will be able to have well-being, be in a good place. Okay, lastly on this list, let's talk about endorphins. These are also released during exercise, but it can also be released because you're having sex or you're excited. So your body doesn't know the difference. Your body doesn't know the difference between different things that excite you. You need to train it to be excited for something that is positive, so that when you do those positive things, then that feeling of euphoria is released, and it produces well-being as well. So I do hope that we understand these things, that our bodies are made of neurotransmitters. Our brain releases them as we communicate with our mind to our brains, and we can train our brains on what to release and when you should release it. Okay? Are we still together? Okay, so we talked about a bit of this already. Why does a particular situation stress you? And we said that your perception of and reaction to a situation is what determines whether you're stressed by it or not. How you perceive a situation and how you react to it. So the situation itself is not what stresses you. The symptoms is not the root cause of the stress. So you must examine the root cause. Why am I stressed? Because I'm inside a 2 hours traffic. When there's traffic every day in Lagos, why does it stress me? Is it because it makes me feel redundant, like I should be working right now, I should be working right now? What if there are parts of my work that I can do while inside traffic? What if I can turn that time to my personal development time, or my worship time, or my prayer time? And I'm just using these simple examples, but I know that life can be a bit more complicated and there are really genuine stressful situations. But I'm saying that you can rewrite the script and determine what effect that a situation has on you. After all, which one of us, by stressing, by worrying, can add a day to his or her life? So, what's the point of stressing? What's the point? There is absolutely no point. Okay, you can brainstorm on an issue and decide, okay, this is the way forward. Maybe I should try this, maybe I should try that. You can talk to a few people, you can pray about it, but you should never ever stress about a situation because it's not going to make any difference. Okay, so what even determines how you perceive a situation? What determines how you react to a situation? You must ask yourself, what influences my decisions? What influences my actions? What influences my thought processes? Sometimes just the things that you watch on African Magic, the things that you watch on TV, in movies, the things that you hear in just gisting sessions with friends. It can affect the way you think. It can influence the way you think. So you must guard your heart. You must be careful what you allow into your heart. Because if you're not careful, you're going to be taking actions, you're going to be thinking along those lines when there may actually not be um, a genuine issue. You may start seeing issues where there are no issues. You may start seeing issues where there are no issues. And there are many of those things. You must examine the things that you heard when you were growing up. Like somebody that is in an abusive relationship where the husband is cheating on her and she's just tired of it. She can just by way of gist say, well, all men are like that. They're like that. And if one is not careful as a woman, somebody can take that thought and own it. And own it. And if she's not careful, she's going to start taking actions that will reflect that. She's going to start mistrusting her spouse, to start, even when the guy is being genuine, she can't see it until she says, why do I even think this way? Has this guy ever shown me a reason to doubt him? Okay? So we can apply this to all areas of life. We can apply this to all areas of life. Okay? I'm trying to see if I should give more example, but I pray that this is, revealed to you. It's all about the mindset. It's all about the mindset. You must check your mindset. Think about what you're thinking about. So think about what you're thinking about. You must pay attention to what you're thinking about. What am I thinking about? Why am I thinking this way? Why am I thinking this way? And if it works for you, if it helps you, stick with it. If it doesn't help you, discard it. Discard. If something doesn't work for you, discard it right away. What are we waiting for? Okay? So we're talking next about junk and weight. You may just feel that maybe you just find yourself craving junk. That one too, there's a science to it. It's not, no, it's not natural. There is a proven science to it. Junk food tastes great. It honestly, let's not deceive ourselves. It tastes great. Especially if your palate have been trained to like it, then you will like it. But it is empty calories. Empty calories meaning that if you remember that first slide, the first slide where we had, let me see if I can bring it up again. There was that slide that was telling us about 500 calories in pictures. In pictures. So let's say you are eating, this is the slide. Let's say you are eating deep fried chicken from one of these fast food joints and it's coated in oil and you're munching away and enjoying it. But look at this tiny space that it will fill in your stomach. So it would make you crave more. Now imagine if this tiny oil is 500 calories. By the time you fill your stomach to the point that it has up to halfway safe, not even full. Look at how many calories that will be. So because it's empty calories, your body craves more, 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 because what your body is looking for is what is good for it. But what it's getting is empty. So it keeps wanting all of these nice things that it was created to eat before they became processed, you know? So the body keeps craving junk and asking for more food because the empty calories don't do a thing for it. They don't do anything for it. So you have to be careful because it is a slippery slope. If you start taking the junk food, your body starts asking for more, more, more. But what your body is really asking for is healthy. What is healthy? What will nourish it? Nutrients. But you feel that you still don't feel satisfied. So you still keep binging, eating the junk food. So it is dangerous, it is addictive, and it is a slippery slope. You have to stop it. You have to stop it. Okay? And I'm not even saying don't have cheat days, but if you're having cheat days, be careful. Pay attention to it so that you would measure out what you're eating and make it very few and far in between. Because if you start a habit of saying, okay, every month I will go to so place and have a cheat day, then that's also a problem because your body will start wanting it more because you've made it into you put it into a structure. So before you know it, every month will be every other week. And then before you know it, every other week will become every week. And then there's problem. There's fire on the mountain, okay? Before it becomes every day. So because your body was created to want whole food and healthy food, no matter how much junk you put into it, you will still end up having cravings. Okay? And remember we talked about dopamine, the pleasure hormone. It makes it become addictive. So you keep giving your body what you feel that it needs. When if you just give it what it really needs, you will just be fine. So you must train your brain not to find pleasure in junk food. You must train your brain not to find pleasure in junk food. Whether you're celebrating, whether you're sad or depressed, and you will not be depressed by God's grace. But whether you're celebrating or whether you're in a foul mood because something happened that you're not happy about, train your body not to reach for food. Okay? Not to reach for food. You must train your body not to reach for. So train your body not to reach for food because what you want can become what you need. That's how people become addicted to stuff. One-offs can become habit loops. Okay? And once a person gets to that point, it's no longer about manufacturing a reason for yourself why you need this thing. You just tell yourself, I just want it, I want it, I want it, I want it. And you keep communicating that to your brain, and before you know it, you're driving down there to get it. And that is terrible because everything is being stored on the body. Okay? Have you seen how when we're eating junk or what is not good for us, we break out in maybe acne or the skin looks funny. It's because the body knows what is good for it and the body expects us to give it what is good for it. Okay, so don't create a cycle of a destructive cycle for yourself. All right, do not, do not. Your stomach had a stop button once. Many people have not felt hungry in years because they have trained their stomach. They don't even wait until they are hungry before they eat. So their stomach no longer knows what it is to be hungry. There's a hormone in the body called the leptin hormone, and it tells us when we've had enough. But if you ignore it for long enough, your body will bypass it again and again, and you won't know when enough is enough again. You will literally stop eating every time because your plate is empty. And if you don't, and that's why fitness coaches, weight loss coaches, we teach people that don't put more than your portion, as in do portion control. Put only what you need to eat on your plate. Because if you put more, you are going to finish it. Because your stop button, most people stop button, they have is no longer working. When last did you really feel hungry? Like your stomach is growling, your stomach is pulling you. When last did you feel hungry? People don't wait anymore to actually feel hungry. They just eat. They just eat. They eat when they see food. They eat when they're bored. You must retrain yourself. You must retrain yourself to have a healthy relationship with food. We talked about the insulin hormone. It's the police in our body. It stores the food. So as food is coming into your body, insulin is saying go this way, you go this way, you go and be used here, you go and be used there, and it's assigning them to where they are supposed to be useful to the body. Okay, so if leptin is worn out, your body doesn't know where to stop, insulin too will be confused because leptin is not saying please stop feeding me, I've had enough food, I have what I need, the nutrients that I need. So insulin keeps working in overdrive because you keep giving the body food, 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 food. Okay, so insulin has told the body to use some, it has told the body to store some, but you are still feeding yourself. There's a problem. Before you know it, insulin is worn out too. And then the body is like, people have to start taking drugs to control blood sugar. And these are things that can be prevented just by becoming more disciplined, just by becoming disciplined about the way we live our lives, the way we treat our bodies. Okay, we must become good stewards of the bodies that God. Nobody can say, I've had all the money in the world, I want to change my body. Yeah, you can do surgeries and all of that, cosmetic surgeries, you can do different things, but you can't literally remove a body and put on another one. It's impossible. Okay, so we must pay attention to all of those things. And you have to to be in charge. You have to take back your control from all of these things that you have given the control to over the years. So, how do we take over control? We must solve the problem from the root of it. You must address the problem at the root. We must be enlightened about the kind of food we eat. You must know what is empty calories. You must know what is good for you and what is not good for you. You must find alternatives to using food as a crutch. You should never, ever, 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 never, ever use food as a crutch. Stop using food as a crutch. It's not supposed to be. So you must find alternatives. You must find alternatives. What do I use to know? Well, we'll talk about it when we get to the slide that addresses it. And you must radically transform your eating habits. You must find what works for you. So if we're going to solve the problem at the root, you must be able to take a step back into your past and acknowledge the root of your nutrition patterns. Why do I behave this way? Why do I eat like this? Where did I learn this one from? Who told me junk is sweet? Who told me I must take a bottle of Coke a day? Who did this? Who did that? Why should I serve soft drinks at at my party? Why can't I do freshly squeezed juice? You know, you must ask yourself, where did I learn this from? Is it working for me? Is it working for my body? If it's not, throw it out the door. What must you change for you to be the healthiest, happiest version of yourself? So you must use our cue routine reward pattern. Remember, we talked about this in module 1. You must create new habit loops for yourself. You must bypass destructive eating patterns and tendencies. You must bypass them. You must find out what they are and bypass them and create new habit loops for yourself. And finally, on the solving the problem at the root, you must create a form of accountability. You must be accountable. You must find accountability. Have people who will hold you responsible for what you put into your mouth so that you don't fall back into the same old habits or patterns. And you can do it. You can do it. I am rooting for you. You can do it. All right. So here we talked briefly about hunger. What is hunger? Physical hunger or emotional hunger? Emotional hunger, you suddenly start to feel like you must put something in your mouth. But physical hunger is gradual. It comes in gradually. Emotional hunger, you ask, there's a particular food, there's a specific food that you're craving, you're just craving. And this one is in your brain, is in your head. You just want it, you want it, you want it. You can barely think, clearly. And usually, maybe something upset you or something happened, and that's why you feel that way. Okay, and it's absent-minded eating, automatic. You just eating mindlessly, and it doesn't know when to stop. It must finish everything on the plate, and then it starts feeling guilty afterwards. So, but if it's a physical hunger, you will be open to eating cabbage or carrots, or you're just hungry and you just want something to eat. And this one, you feel it in your stomach, not in your brain or your mind. Okay, and sometimes when you're physically hungry, you can actually be patient and say, I will wait for food to be ready. So it's not urgent, like I must have it now, of emotional hunger. So, and this one occurs out of physical need. You have a really, as in, it's normal physical, I'm hungry, I need food. Then you can take deliberate choices of food and be aware of what you're putting in your mouth. And this person will stop eating when they're full. And they're eating because food is necessary for the body. It's not, so they're not going to feel guilty or anything. So you must be able to decipher when what you're feeling is physical hunger or when it is emotional hunger. And when it is emotional hunger, you must stop at that moment and address your emotions. You must face your emotions squarely, look them in the eyes and say, this is how I'm feeling. This is why I'm feeling this way. This is what I'm going to do about it, so that you don't start using food as a crutch. Okay, and you must know the kind of food you eat. This class is not going to like break it down into this calories or that calories, but you must know the kind of food that you eat. You must become a student all over again. You must carry out research, and it is really easy actually. So there are apps that can tell you the calories, the grams of food that you eat. They can tell you exactly what is inside each food. Okay, there are plates that are pre-divided that you can use to portion control your meals, so that you will know that and you can use scales, food scales, to measure your grams so that you can know how many calories are inside what you are eating. And this is not even for to say that you should become a fanatic or an addict, a straight jacket. I must know the grams to the last zero. But it just helps to keep you in check with what you're eating until you get used to it. Then you can wing it if you have to. Okay, so use an app, use the measuring scale, and just do what your body needs. There are weight scales that can tell you exactly the number of calories that your body needs, and you can share that into three and share it over your 3 meals in a day, maybe including a snack or so. Also, eat whole foods rather than processed food. So eat whole bread, eat whole pasta, Eat ofada rice, eat whole rice that they have not removed the fiber of it, because all food usually in their whole form they are 50% more micronutrients than their processed counterparts. Most times when rice the fiber has been removed, what you eat is usually just the carbohydrates, which is converted straight to sugar. But if the fiber is still there, number one, it helps in your intestines, so your body just doesn't just absorb the sugar and throw out the rest. It gets things moving along the intestines, and you can have good bowel movement, and your digestive system is working well. One thing I must also mention is the fact that when you start to withdraw from fast food, you will have withdrawal symptoms. So you must pay attention to it so that it doesn't throw you back into that cycle where you now start eating again. So you must be careful so that you will not start overeating because you're suddenly feeling unrest, listless, lightheaded, headache, or somehow. Okay. Um So that's it. That's it. You will experience withdrawal symptoms, but be careful that it doesn't throw you back into that unhealthy cycle. Just like any other withdrawal symptoms, it will pass. It will pass. It will pass. It will pass. Okay. So be enlightened about the kind of food you eat. This is a food pyramid, and you can see that there are vegetables on the lowest rung. So fill your plate with vegetables and then build